Welcome to another Boyish Rant. 2020 has brought a great number of social and environmental change in America, from forest fires to police brutality, from COVID-19 to more police brutality. You need only look at the rising number of COVID deaths in America to see how truly dire the situation is. Perfect time for an election. The United States 2020 presidential election takes place in 2 months' time, with likely sex offender and dementia patient Donald Trump defending the title against likely sex offender and dementia patient Joe Biden. Currently, the national polls have Biden ahead of Trump. But, as Hillary Clinton found out in 2016, the number of votes you win is less important. Where you win them, that's what matters. For instance, the state of New Hampshire counts as 4 votes in the Electoral College, whereas the Republic of Texas, well, that counts for 38, which doesn't massively scream democracy when one vote still isn't one vote, really. Analysts predict that up to 40% of the ballots cast this November will be done by mail to avoid voting in person. President Trump has sought to undermine November's results by claiming that the whole mail-in voting system is fraudulent. Now, despite these claims, mail-in voting has been utilised in America for decades, with nearly a quarter of the last election's ballots being cast by mail. Some states, including Ohio, have already carried out statewide mail-in voting amid Democratic primaries earlier this year, with lawmakers arguing over the health implications of voting in person. The Postal Service sent letters back in July to several states warning that the service would not be able to meet the state's demand and deadlines regarding ballots. Trump responded by appointing this sack of shit as Postmaster General. Yes, that's a real title, who promptly banned overtime and extra trips to deliver mail. This has led to a mass delay in delivering mail, as well as a build-up of absentee last-minute ballots that some are calling election rigging. Trump's last 4 years have been marred in scandal, controversy, and hilarity, to be honest. I say it would be hilarious if it wasn't for the fate of one of the most influential countries on the planet. Despite California being ablaze, Trump still claims that climate change is a hoax, enforcing this belief by ending the Clean Power Act, pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and urging subsidies for fossil fuel production. The US-China trade war is still ongoing since Trump began setting tariffs and other trade barriers with the goal of forcing China to change what the US calls unfair trade practice. In response, the Chinese Communist Party accused the Trump administration of engaging in protectionism, which is fucking ironic coming from them. President Trump is facing overlapping shitstorms in the last year of his term, from the coronavirus pandemic and the resulting recession to nationwide protests that are still happening over the unjust killings of black civilians. And he's handled it about as well as you think he would. Fucking horribly. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., born in Scranton. Biden has been in politics since 1970, was seen as a general outsider until Barack Obama made him his VP back in 2009. Biden was seen as a moderate Democrat until he appointed Kamala Harris as his VP, despite disagreeing with her on such base topics as reproductive rights or same-sex marriage. If you're running against Trump as a Democrat, you're going to need the support of the hard left, and it doesn't seem like having a VP who's called for more extreme sentences for black folks or is a liaison for the American Police Association is going to help in this election. Biden's biggest plug right now is that he's not Trump, which may work on the SJW crowd, but it doesn't mean the Rust Belt Americans are going to vote for him in November. And after watching numerous speeches by Joe Biden, I still have no clear view on what his policies are. I mean, I don't know what Trump's are either. I just know they're both likely to touch me up without my consent. People enjoy laughing at Donald Trump, perhaps because they think it will save him from his malice, cruelty or violence? It won't. And it's not as simple to say that Trump is indifferent to blue states. He's actively hostile towards them, from cutting coastal aid to states like Maine during the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, to ignoring places like Puerto Rico and California as they're suffering environmental calamities. So where do these political, social and economic choices lead us? Civil War Part 2, of course. For decades, if not longer, the American right has fantasized about a second civil war. With Trump as president for a second term, or with Biden as the new leader, combined with a season of suffering and death from the coronavirus pandemic and an intense economic crisis, paired with political and social division, these would-be secessionists may finally get their wish. May as well, there's bugger all else on the TV at the minute. Except Social Dilemma. You should watch that for sure. So why should the UK care about this? Well, as we've seen over the decades, political or social events in the US have ripple effects that react with British culture. It's not to say there aren't similarities. We've both built our countries on the backs of slavery, although we've done a shite sight better at clearing it out of modern society. We both have firm and rigid police forces, though it takes 7 times as long in Britain to become a police officer. And we don't give a shit about guns over here. But if Trump ends up getting inaugurated in January again, we must prepare for consequences, whether it's political or social. If Trump gets a second term, people with dissenting opinions or critics of him will have less ground to stand on. If he loses, they'll be able to power him off as a blip in political history, just a one-term red-tide melting hippo. But if Trump is allowed 8 years in office, he will become a legitimised president, not just some lucky simpleton with a big mouth who made noise for 4 years. He will be a POTUS with 2 terms under his belt, putting him in some of the same categories as the big black Barack. Miss you, O. Ultimately, the fate of America is in the hands of the people of America, though there is 1/5 less of you now than at the start of 2019. And I'd like to say that I'm confident in people, but my country is currently experiencing a decade of Tories and the real possibility of a no-deal Brexit, so my faith in humanity wanes. And if any American gammons are watching and want to know how they can truly help out society and give back to the planet, I want you to go outside, find yourself a small shrub or a struggling tree, and bury yourself alive under it. And if that doesn't sound righteous, at least register to vote. You can have a choice then between narcissistic personality disorder and dementia.
I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness.
It would put 720 million women back in the workforce.
Nobody should be in jail for a nonviolent crime.
It's a rigged system.
The system is totally rigged and broken.
This system is rigged. We're competing in a rigged election. It's a rigged election.
Good luck.